person playing dress up who's kidnapped you all. But I'd like to welcome you guys here to Point Park. This is a memorial park that was set up by Civil War veterans to kind of overlook the city of Chattanooga and kind of commemorate the Civil War battles here in the region. Now what we're going to do this morning is I've put together about a 15-minute long short presentation kind of about the battles using a Civil War soldier's letters who fought here, and we'll highlight some bigger ideas about the battle and the Civil War. Now as part of that, I am going to be firing off a reproduction of the U.S. Model 1861 Springfield rifled musket, for those of you guys that are interested in weapon types. Because I am going to be firing off this weapon a couple of times, there are a few just general safety things to be aware of. The first is sound. It can be relatively loud. Now, how loud it is depends on what you're used to. If you've been around a lot of loud noises before, gunfire, stuff like that, to be honest with you, you'll think there's nothing to this. However, if you do have a hearing sensitivity, so for example, if you've got hearing aids, or if you're a puppy dog or a baby or a toddler, you may want to take precautions when I get ready to fire. Turn down that hearing aid, cover your ears, you know, whatever the case may be. I'll fire twice, once kind of towards the beginning, once at the end. Your cue that I'm about to fire is you'll see me load the weapon and aim it that direction. Which brings me to my second safety point. If I'm aimed that way, where do you not need to be?
That way.
That way. Now, you are not going to get shot. I am firing a blank projectile. That means it's just gunpowder. There is no bullet coming out. However, I'm actually going to do the presentation down here from the lower level, which means I'm going to aim off the side of the mountain, and if you are down range of me, it means you fell off the mountain. And that is the most important safety thing. Don't fall off my mountain. All right, is everybody good on the safety stuff?
Yep.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to move down to the lower level here. I encourage you guys to stay up top. If you want to stay back on the benches, that's cool. If you want to come down, sit down on these front steps, that's cool too. Do me a favor, please don't climb and sit up on the cannon. But I promise you, even while I'm down low, you will still see and hear me. Actually, let me get you guys, y'all kind of up here. I'm going to go down there. All right.
What you telling?
Yeah.
Everybody still hear me? Excellent, excellent. Well, again, my name is Chris, and I'd like to welcome you guys here to Point Park. So, believe it or not, you are gathered here on a Civil War battlefield. A lot of visitors are surprised to learn that. A lot of people's first clue that they're in a Civil War battlefield is when they ride the incline up and they see these monuments and these cannon. Or if you're out here in the summertime, you see me out here. But what's happened is a lot of people, they'll visit town and say, well, what do you do? Well, go see Lookout Mountain. And so that's kind of their first clue that you're in a battlefield. But you are. On November the 24th, 1863, during the American Civil War, the slopes of Lookout Mountain were the scene of fighting between Union and Confederate soldiers this is one battle and a series of battles for control of that city of Chattanooga back behind me. Now, if you were sitting in this spot specifically on November the 24th, 1863, you guys would be in a Confederate Army artillery position. You would be manning these cannon back behind us. Now, what you would be looking at is about 10,000 Union soldiers attacking Lookout Mountain. Now, they're not charging straight up at you. Most of the fighting, if you can kind of tell how there's a vertical slope right back behind me, a bluff here, most of that fighting is taking place right back behind me at the base of that bluff. And the Union soldiers are kind of attacking from that way, kind of going this way. So they're not charging straight up, but rather kind of around you. Now, I can't recreate the Battle of Lookout Mountain. For starters, we wouldn't want to. Anybody who's ever been in combat will tell you that that's not fun and games to recreate. But also, too, is sheer numbers. In order to recreate the Battle of Lookout Mountain, I would need about 10,000 people dressed up like me as Union soldiers, and I'd need about 2,000 people dressed up as Confederate soldiers. And we just physically can't do that. But what I am going to try to do is to give you guys a little bit of a sensory experience here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load and fire this weapon out across the city here. And what I want you guys to do is take what you see and hear in your brain, kind of multiply that by 10,000 and try to visualize what would the Battle of Lookout Mountain look like or sound like. For those of you guys that just walked up, as I get ready to load and fire the weapon, I do encourage you, if you've got a hearing sensitivity, anything like that, you may want to cover your ears. I'm going to let these folks know here as well. How y'all doing? Y'all are fine right there. I just want to give y'all a heads up that I'm about to shoot a weapon off.
Okay. All right. Thank
All right. So as I said, this is a reproduction of one of the most commonly used weapons of the Civil War, and it is a muzzle loading weapon. That means there's one shot at a time loaded from the top, and it works kind of like this. Soldiers would carry in their back right hip a cartridge box. This basically got paper cartridges, which is just a paper tube that would have gunpowder and a bullet. Now remember, I'm just shooting blanks today, so no bullet here, but it's going to load the same. You're going to tear that open with your teeth. Then you're going to pour that powder, that bullet, everything down the barrel. Then you're going to draw your ramrod. You're going to ram it down like so. Now it's really easy to ram the blanks down. If I had a real bullet, it's a little harder to ram. But the way I'm actually going to fire the weapon is with what's called a percussion cap, which is just a little brass cap. If you ever played with a cap gun when you were a kid, that's basically all it is. I'm going to put that right there. And from there, the command is ready. Aim, fire. All right. So by itself, that wasn't all that loud, right?
No.
But if you imagine 10,000 people doing that, that gets pretty deafening. You add the roar of these cannon, and this gets very, very loud. But part of the problem with thinking about Civil War battles, or any battles like that, we talk about 10,000 people, is that we lose sight of a very important word, and that is the word people. You see, wars are waged by the state, by the government, to achieve a political objective. However, the fighting is done by people, average people just like you and me. One of those people, one of those 10,000 Union soldiers charging up the side of this mountain, was a young man from Pennsylvania named Ambrose Hayward. And he was a sergeant in the 28th Pennsylvania Infantry. And he's one of those guys who's kind of charging up and around this mountain. And a week later, he wrote a letter to his dad. And I want to share with you guys just a little bit of Ambrose Hayward's letters to his dad. His Civil War letters were all published a few years ago, and I do believe we sell this in the bookstore if anybody's interested. But he wrote, about a week after the battles, he wrote, "Dear Father, I take the earliest opportunity to inform you that I am alive and well after 8 days of the hardest work I've yet experienced for the good cause against the rebels. It is glorious to be a soldier after the battle is over, when we have returned to our comfortable quarters, to rest on our laurels bravely won, to think and talk of daring deeds we each and all have done, to show the narrow escape from the enemy's bullets. One has had his haversack shot away, another his clothes riddled, another his bayonet scabbard cut off. Such has been our occupation for the past week. I've lost another of my messmates, Corporal Fithian, known through the regiment as an honest and faithful soldier. I saw him fall with others of my company. I saw more of my comrades shot down there than in any other battle of the war. When I'm rested and feel myself again, I will try to give you some idea of my experience in all the different engagements at Missionary Ridge, Lookout Mountain, and Taylor's Ridge, which is just Ringgold, Georgia. Lookout Mountain is ours and Napoleon outdone. Come and see Lookout Mountain, or you will never know what wonderful deeds the American soldiers have done." I really like that letter, especially that last line. Come and see Lookout Mountain, or you will never know what wonderful deeds the American soldiers have done. And the reason I like that last line is because it speaks a truth about this place on kind of several different levels. On the one hand, what Ambrose Hayward is telling his dad is he's saying, "Listen, Dad, you got to come see this place. You were never going to believe that we charged up the side of that and captured it." And to be honest with you, a lot of visitors today kind of wonder that same thing. How in the world did you do that? But that letter also kind of speaks to the bigger picture of the Civil War when he says, "Come and see this place to know what wonderful deeds the American soldiers have done." You see, we in 2019, we have the benefit of hindsight. We know how the Civil War turns out. We know that once the Union Army captured Chattanooga, this became its supply hub for the push south to Atlanta and ultimately the march to the sea. We know that capturing Chattanooga directly leads to Union victory in the Civil War. You don't have to take my word for it either. One Confederate later said losing Chattanooga was the death knell of the Confederacy. So we can kind of, knowing that Union victory here led to Union victory in the war, we can kind of read that letter to say, kind of come and see Lookout Mountain to appreciate kind of the outcome of the Civil War, the outcome of American victory. And there's two important outcomes of Union victory. Passage of constitutional amendments defining citizenship and abolishing slavery, but also, too, the reunification of the United States. But we can also read that letter. Come and see Lookout Mountain, or you'll never know what wonderful deeds the American soldiers have done, on kind of a third level, a more personal level. You see, when Ambrose Hayward wrote that, he had no idea what the future held. Like most of the Union soldiers, in the spring of 1864, he left Chattanooga and began marching south down towards Atlanta, where on June 15th, 1864, at a little place called Pine Knob near Kennesaw, Georgia, he was pretty severely wounded and was put on a train, and because this is the supply base, he was brought back to a hospital here. And that's where he died on June 19th, 1864. When he told his dad to come and see Lookout Mountain, or you'll never know what wonderful deeds the American soldiers have done, he had no idea that one day he, as an American soldier, would give his life in the shadow of that very mountain. He had no way of knowing that one day you would be able to come and see Lookout Mountain, look out across this city and see his own final resting place at Chattanooga National Cemetery, which you guys can see from where you're standing. If you find Interstate 24 and look just on the other side of it, about kind of halfway across the valley here, you'll see a big open green space with a few scattered trees. That's Chattanooga National Cemetery, where Sergeant Ambrose Henry Hayward is buried in Section E, grave 11,428. I began this presentation today by firing this musket and asking you guys to think about what would the battle look like. I'm going to conclude by firing this weapon again. Only this time I'm going to do something slightly different. This time I'm going to intentionally aim right across that national cemetery. Now they're not going to hear it out there, but if you've ever been in a national cemetery, especially during a funeral or memorial service, you know that the firing of a weapon, a tool of war, out across those graves means something very different there than it does, say, on a battlefield. But the story of what happened on these battlefields and places like that cemetery are connected. And so as I load and fire the weapon this time, I should instead of begin thinking about what this battle sounded like, I should think about what does this battle mean for all of us. For those of you guys that just walked up, I am going to be firing a weapon off, so as you see me aim, you may want to cover your ears if you would like. Once again, I want to thank you guys for visiting with us today, but I want to thank you not as Park Ranger Chris for listening to me stammer on for 10 minutes or so. I want to thank you for doing something special today, something you didn't know you did. See, Ambrose Hayward, again, told his dad to come and see Lookout Mountain. But his dad probably never came and saw this place. His dad died in 1870, just a few years after the war. But I know who did come and see Lookout Mountain. When you guys walked through those gates today, you fulfilled Ambrose Hayward's request. You came and saw this place. You fulfilled that kind of dying wish of a young American soldier who gave that last full measure of devotion right here in this city in a conflict that ultimately ensured that this nation might have a new birth of freedom and that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from this earth. So sort of on behalf of Ambrose Hayward, thank you all for visiting with us today. I'm more than happy to stick around and chat and answer questions, take pictures, whatever the case may be. I'll come up top here for all of that if that's cool with everybody. If anybody wants a little bit more of a big picture overview of the battles, one of our other Rangers will be doing kind of a 30-minute walking tour at 11 o'clock. That should be in about 15 minutes or so, and that'll meet just inside the gate there. But again, thank you guys for visiting, and please enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Is it the